A surreal sight was unfolding in front of his eyes. However, the boy no longer let out a whimper from his mouth. Simply standing frozen with surprise will not help in his current situation. He thought that the current situation he was facing had become his reality, where he must somehow accept and adapt to it. Si-woo asks if Si-woo sees it, the Force. It is an ability that consumes one's energy to use. She starts teaching him that the Force is divided into two types, which are inherent magic and acquired magic. She tells him that he already knows what the first one is. Like the goblin wrestling that he had used before, an innate skill that his bloodline remembered. Using that did not require any special training. It was as easy as breathing once grasped. However, it was different for acquired skills. Any yokai could freely use them if they learn. But learning and training were essential for that. Si-woo points to the monster and tells him that he relied only on his natural physique and strength, and now he was humiliated with a simple binding. That monster was the perfect example of being utterly inferior to her. The monster could say nothing. Anyway, since things had turned out this way, she tells him that she will teach him and tells him clearly in advance. She disliked troublesome things, and if the result were meaningless, then she might get angry. So, she tells him that if he is not prepared, she suggests him to give up in advance. For someone who was just a human a few minutes ago, she warns him that it will be extremely difficult. Si-woo did not say anything. Si-woo then tells him that if he disappointed her, then he might actually die. Hearing that, Si-woo tells her that if she is willing to teach him, then he will do his best and exert every bit of effort. As he wanted to learn no matter what, and right now, he was no longer in a situation where he could worry about dying in the future. Si-woo smirks and says all right, as she thinks that the chances for his success was very low, but it was still better than doing nothing. She then asks if they should have their first meal. Meal? Si-woo was confused. She then, with an aura in her hand, tells him that it took up energy to use Force. The power that everyone in the yokai realm possesses, but Si-woo probably did not have much energy left. Just breathing the air, consuming food and water in the yokai realm replenishes the energy, but he had just arrived in this realm today. With the human diet he had been having, he probably had not accumulated that much. So, the power that he had since his birth was all he had. She then asks him if he was hungry. Considering the amount of energy he had used in the fight earlier, he might be starving. He tells her that he did not feel that hungry at the moment. But just then he feels something. His veins were flowing with the aura, and he was shaking. Si-woo tells him that after the fight he had very little force left in him. According to her, he had probably got only a handful left, which might have been completely drained by the last move, as it was just a typical force depletion. She comes to her and tells him that his solution was really simple. She then tells her to look at the yokai in front of him. She tells him that there were rules among yokai. If one wins in an official duel initiated by the divine judge, the right of life and death of the loser is in the hands of the winner. And she tells him that he had the right to eat the defeated yokai and consume its force, as that was the most effective and simple way to replenish the force. With his size, she tells him that it would be a pretty good meal for him, and his hunger would definitely be satisfied. The yokai is scared as he sees Si-woo walking towards him. At that moment, when Si-woo moved, was not reason but instinct. He felt an intense hunger as a yokai that he had never experienced before. That desire was further fueled by the whispers from Si-woo. The only thing in his mind was just the instinct to prey. But if there was something that Si-woo had not thought before, was the greedy nature of the goblin, which made them want to capture the prey, which was more nutritious and delicious. Si-woo then attacks Si-woo. Will you look at that? She then uses her technique bind. She tells him that no matter how hungry he was, he should not act so arrogantly. A mere half yokai dared to attack and eat her. She asked if she really looked like easy prey to him. She tells him that she will have to fix his manners properly. While she was speaking, Si-woo broke the binding chain. Si-woo was shocked to think that he broke the chain off even if it was just one and with brute strength. He then, engulfed in hunger, comes to Si-woo. Looking at him, she understood that even if he was a half-goblin, he was still a goblin, and that was what he was showing. She pulls out her nail, and admitting that he was strong with her blood, she summons the demon-subduing emperor's one fist. A giant fist comes at Si-woo and attacks him. The fist then opens up into a palm and he is pushed with it. He is pushed with full force. This makes a huge opening in the wall. Was he still alive? Si-woo questions. She could not help it even if he had died, as he was the one asking for death when he attacked her first. She did not expect anything from him anyway. It was not her mistake. But wait, she was shocked seeing Si-woo. The fact that the boy who just awakened was powerful even among powerful goblins. Only a few chosen ones are enlightened with the unique skill. Despite its rarity with overwhelming power, he showed the ability to become the symbol of the goblin race. Si-woo breaks his horn and wields it as a weapon. For one half-blooded goblin, he was more complicated than he had thought. Unique force. The Goblin's Club. Si-woo was an extraordinary yokai. A genius who grew her 9 tails in less than 100 years. A talent the Yokai Peninsula had after 1,000 years. That is why she could clearly feel it. Si-woo was in a stance with the Goblin's Club. Si-woo could clearly see that after several hundred years, the danger of facing such a creature for the first time since her birth. She thinks that if the amount of force she had no chance of losing, but what was this immense pressure that she was experiencing? The aura was all being imitated by Si-woo. He then comes towards Si-woo. She is on full alert. Si-woo transfers to the Goblin's Club to perform Thunderstrike. Si-woo also takes her 9 tails out. She looks carefully at Si-woo. Si-woo attacks and she uses the fist from earlier to stop the attack. She felt it. It was the Goblin's Club. Then, seeing Si-woo attack, she plans to show off too. She uses the fist to grab the thunder, the Goblin's Club, and swing Si-woo and then bang him in the ground. She watches the dust clear out as she thinks that would not be enough. If she thought about the tenacity of his that she just saw, she would have had to beat him up at least 6 times to bring him to his senses. The Goblin's Club was being pulled back by Si-woo. Si-woo notices this. Si-woo was pulling with all his might. Si-woo thought that it was unbelievable. Even if it was just one arm, could he really be content with the great demon subduing emperor? He then manages to pull it out of the demon's hand. A tool that could freely change its form according to the user's will and purpose. Si-woo was holding it. This weapon was one of the main reasons that the goblins were thriving in the past. Si-woo swings the weapon. This weapon was referred to by the yokai as a weapon that could become anything. The shape and the method of the attack had both changed. It was hard to respond quickly. Aside from the power of the club, its efficiency and versatility were at an unbelievable level. If she left the room for any of his considerable firepower, then she had no doubt that he would trample them without a doubt. Si-woo then attacks him with numerous hands. But he was blocking all of it, enduring even that seriously. This way she could not even compete against that clumsy 100-year-old goblin. She understood why the goblins were doing great in the past. Even as a newly awakened half-being, he was on a different level. However, that was about it. No matter how efficient his power is, his yokai force seemed to have reached its limit. If he continued like that, eventually his body will break down, and that is how it will end. Really, she could not help it. He then attacks the hands with full force. She summons 3 tails, not 5 tails, telling Si-woo that making her use 5 tails, he could take pride in that. Si-woo comes at Si-woo. It had been a long time since she went all out against an opponent in a real battle. She summons the Great Demon Eclipse. Si-woo comes from the above. The demon also swings his weapon, the first strike of the divine decapitation. There is a huge energy burst and Si-woo gets thrown back. Si-woo says that it did not look good. It was too late. Well, it was deeply regrettable, but he was going to die soon. The collapse due to force depletion had begun. But she tells him that it was his fault, and he was the one who foolishly fought until his body collapsed without understanding the situation. She sighs, thinking that she could have a severe scolding from her mentor. Just as she was leaving, Si-woo tries speaking something. Tears were coming from his eyes. She looks at him and then sighs again. She uses her magic to pick him up and then looks at him. Then grabs him and kisses him. Their mouths were glowing. She then spits and throws him back on the ground. With 5 tails and the yokai force and the fox speed that she used in height just now, she tells him that if he is not worth the investment that she had made just now, she won't let him go off easy. Si-woo then slowly wakes up. He looks around. Where was he? He sees the door opening. It was Si-woo coming to him with a drink. She then glares at him, which makes Si-woo kind of nervous and anxious. Si-woo then apologizes for what he did. He remembered everything that happened. He had no idea how it was possible. He was fully conscious, but he could not control his body. Anyway, he was truly sorry for what he had done. He tried to help, but instead she ended up in danger because of him. She just gives him the soup and tells him to drink that. Si-woo was confused. She tells him to drink the soup before the meal. Si-woo then thanks Si-woo for the drink and thinks if it was some kind of herbal medicine. He then takes a sip of it. He was disgusted by the soup. Si-woo asks him if he wanted to die if he spit that out. He asks what that drink was and what was it made up of. She tells him that she does not know and knowing won't help him. Si-woo tells him that she won't force him to swallow it all but just drink it and tells him to listen while drinking. Si-woo was disgusted by the drink. Si-woo continues saying that first of all he had lost something pretty big. The yokai with a sturdy build somehow managed to escape while they were fighting. Well, even so he still had ownership of it, and he was probably hiding somewhere to crouch for 100 years. If he were to reveal himself, then he would be eaten right away. So, he knew better. For a half-breed like him, that monster was a perfect remedy. He had spit out what entered his mouth himself. Si-woo asks if there were no other ways. Other ways? She tells him that he was still a human, and if he was not ready to harm someone to become bigger, this world was not for him. He finishes the soup and tells that this killing and eating, all of this, he honestly could not even believe that it was real. It is true that he was not comfortable with it. But honestly, no matter who they were, from his perspective, they were dangerous monsters harming the people. If he doesn't do it properly, in a few months the people he knows will suffer terrible fates. He tells that even if he had to kill, he would, and even if he had to devour, he would devour. He tells her that he is giving this as all. And he was not asking about other methods not to devour. He was asking them to wonder if there would be another opportunity like this to devour them. Si-woo is fascinated. She tells him that the most efficient way to increase his power was to devour other monsters, but that was only possible if both parties agreed to the duel. If there was no such rule, Weakling will be devoured one by one, leaving no survivors, and now there won't be any easy prey coming his way. Even if he was a half-breed. Countless monsters had witnessed his powers in wrestling. By now his reputation must have spread far and wide. Those who could be easily devoured won't come to fight him and avoid him at all costs. Those who gather will likely be the opposite and will be the monsters of the level that he could not possibly handle. She stands up saying that if one misses out on a pheasant, then that person must settle for the chicken. Right? She tells him to come out with her, stating that she has brought a gift for him. Outside, Si-woo was shocked seeing the gift. Was that thing called a gift? It was a yokai bound in chains. She asks what he thinks of it and if it is all right. He asks if it was yokai. She says yes, but technically it was not. Strictly speaking, that creature had lost its tight as a yokai. Each had a different cause, but among the yokai there were occasionally those who lost their reasons and succumbed to their instincts. It was the same case for him when he attacked her. But unlike him, they were not lucky and ended up committing irreversible acts. Then they were branded not as yokai but as beasts, stripping them of all their rights as their kind. She then asks him why he was staring at them so blankly. She had told him that they had become beasts without reason. The beast then comes from behind and attacks Si-woo. He manages to dodge it. Si-woo watches as she thinks that at first, she had thought that he would be hesitant, but he was actually quite skilled fighter. Had she underestimated him? Well, it was not like it matters, as the beast was nothing more than a fugitive. The opponent was originally from the Fire Beast tribe and had quite a reputation. However, with the ambition to represent the tribe, they committed the sin of kidnapping and devouring monsters without permission. Unable to handle power beyond their capacity, they went insane. The beast comes towards Si-woo with full force, almost biting him. Si-woo thought that they could not consciously wield a club. Well, she did not expect that to begin with. The fight was not about Si-woo winning from the start. Despite losing their sanity, their abilities were superior to others. Moreover, it did not fit well with the wrestling's grab and throw combat style. They had a harsh and effective educational method to awaken the instinct that had been suppressed until the moment of death. Si-woo was in a boxing stance. Si-woo was shocked seeing this. He then punches the beast. Back to Si-woo's flashback of the time he was learning boxing. His coach tells him that his athletic ability was way more impressive than he had thought. He never thought he was this good, as he was there only for dieting. The coach then asks Si-woo if he had any intention of properly learning boxing. Si-woo answered that once he loses weight, he might consider it. The coach tells him that with his routine he can start seeing the results in just a few months, and losing weight was just the basic. Si-woo was skeptical about it, and he never lost his weight boxing too. Unlike other martial artists, Si-woo's goal was not physical strength or fighting. It was the concern for losing weight. A daily and modest yet earnest worry. Despite consistent efforts, he had never seen the results, but he had never given up. He had practiced 16 different sports since he was in upper elementary school. Among them there were a total of 7 combat sports. Although each training period was short, and he had not achieved his weight loss goal. Born with an exceptional athletic sense and the spirit of a goblin, his inherent athletic talent allowed him to absorb all 7 combat sports techniques. Si-woo was shocked to see that Si-woo had defeated the beast. But Si-woo now thought, how was he going to eat it now?
Thank you for joining us in this recap journey. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. Comment if you have suggestions, want more of the series. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Do subscribe if you want more similar content. This is Universe Nexus, your passport to the immersive realms of anime and manga.